Right, so we are live, and today I have Stephanie with me. Stephanie, welcome to my show, to my Carnivore, the Power of Meat show.
Thank you so much for inviting me on.
Stephanie, you have a very interesting story to tell, in that you are a type 1 diabetic, which is quite a serious condition, and you are successfully managing it with the carnivore diet. Is this correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So tell us a little more about that. How long have you been eating carnivore? Why did you start it? How did you find out about it? And yeah, how you're doing with the on the carnivore diet?
I actually started the carnivore diet during March Meatness, I think in 2017. Dr. Baker was talking about it. I saw it on the internet, and I figured a month. I'll give it a month. At that point, I had been following a well-formulated ketogenic diet, formulated as in like Dr. Bernstein's diabetes solution, where 30 grams of carbs a day total. You eat adequate amounts of protein, and the fat comes with the protein. And I've been doing very well with that for years. But due to my Hashimoto's disease, I was experiencing a lot of symptoms from that. And at that point, I was on levothyroxine. That's a T4 only medication, I believe. Yeah, T4 only. And my thyroid levels were very out of whack. I was still symptomatic despite being medicated. And I was reading Meat Heals. So I gave it a month, and I felt really good. I was eating a lot of bacon, eggs, and at that point, just hamburger patties with slices of like cheddar on it, because I wasn't sure about dairy then. I did great. Blood sugar was awesome. I'm still using my pump, but I didn't know how to use our insulin yet. I can get into that later if you'd like. But my blood sugar was very stable. My joints quit hurting. I lost water weight. My ring size went down on my fingers. I had to get my wedding rings resized. I had to buy these silicone ones because I was washing my hands one day, used the hand dryer, and my rings just flew off my hand. So that March Meatness, it was great. Then late April of that year, I ended up getting a virus, and my blood sugar became out of whack, and I panicked. And I started eating my old diet again because I thought, oh no, it's the insulin resistance. These people were warning me about, like all the naysayers. They're like, all that saturated fat's going to give you insulin resistance. So me being me, I went back to my well-formulated ketogenic diet. I actually am a fan of Marty Kendall's Nutrient Optimizer. So I joined a challenge. I said, this is what we're going to do. I'm going to join the Nutrient Optimizer Challenge. I'm going to get all of my nutrition from plants and animals, and I'm going to make sure I hit all of my RDAs, because those are important, in my chronometer. And if this doesn't work for a few months, I'll give it 3 months, and if it doesn't work, if I don't have improvement in my symptoms and how I feel, I can go back to carnivore. So I did that. I was eating avocados every day, lots of greens. Oh man, I was eating lots of collard greens and lots of spinach every day. And my joints hurt. I looked like I was like 5 months pregnant all the time because I was so bloated. I was extremely constipated. It was ridiculous. All right, I know I'm being a little frank here, but with Hashimoto's disease, your bowels don't move. All right, it's scary. Like, it's not normal. And then, so I was eating lots and lots of fiber, lots of leafy green vegetables, everything that on paper looks good. And it wasn't working. It wasn't. I was going to the doctor. My hair was falling out again. I had acne. I was very lethargic. I was fighting with my endocrinologist because my blood sugars were still good. And he would just tell me, no, 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 your blood works fine. And my T3 was still suboptimal, and my T4 kept going higher. So now my TSH was also getting wonky. I ended up firing that guy. Got a new endocrinologist. Hurricane Florence came through, and I actually evacuated to my cousin's house in Kentucky. And when I got there, we went grocery shopping, and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to do it again. I bought like 4 pounds of 80/20 hamburger. We went back to her house. I started frying up hamburgers, and for the 10 days I was there, all I ate was eggs, bacon, and ground beef. That's what I ate, and I just hopped right into it. My blood sugars were flat again. I had energy again. It was amazing just from 10 days. So when I came back home, I told my husband, hey, I'm doing the carnivore diet again. He's really laid back when it comes to my changes. Every time I leave or he deploys, he comes home and I'm like, hey, this is what I'm doing now. He's like, okay, as long as it's working for you. So I came back, had my new endocrinologist. She put me on desiccated thyroid, and by the time December came around, my hair stopped falling out. My weight had gone down 4 pounds. I normally am around 110 pounds. I'm only 4'11", and it came off easily. And in January, I started weightlifting again because I felt so good, and I've been doing that since last January. But it's been over a year, and it's extremely sustainable for me because of the results. Now, this little story, this past month, my blood sugar was out of control. It's never been this out of control. I mean, I'm talking like 200 milligrams per deciliter in the morning for some reason, and I was taking a lot of insulin, and I thought it was stress. So I've been meditating more. I've been doing my yoga. I love doing yoga. I'm still weightlifting. I cut back on caffeine intake. I'm doing all of these things, and then I realized I needed to start monitoring my resting heart rate because I was having palpitations. So I started doing that. Normally, I have a resting heart rate of around like 49, 50. And I started checking it once a week. And like yesterday and 2 days ago, it was around 70. And I was like, that's way too high. So I started cutting my thyroid pill in half. So I believe that either I'm having an issue with my immune system. Again, I'm going to call my doctor and have her run blood work. But I think that either my antibodies have gone down enough that I'm experiencing a better thyroid thing going on here. I don't know. I cut my pill in half, and now my blood sugar is finally coming back down to where it normally is, which is around 100. I'm not spiking as much. I'm hoping that I lose the 3 pounds that I've gained this past month from taking like almost twice as much insulin as I normally do. But that was interesting because I've been doing this whole thing. I'm trying to lower my antibodies for my Hashimoto's disease and extend my honeymoon. I actually still have some insulin production because I got onto Dr. Bernstein's diet 2 years after diagnosis. So I've only been on a very minimal amount of insulin for the past 9 years. And I want to keep that going. So I'm really hoping that the reason why my thyroid meds need cut is because the antibodies are down. I've cut out dairy. It's just bacon, eggs, and beef right now, and then I'll have a can of like sardines on occasion. I've cut out my mustard, my beloved mustard. I was throwing that stuff on everything. I've cut out pepper because these are the nightshades. I use Redmond's real salt on everything, and then I make, I call it my keto aid. It's just a little bit of lime juice. I mean, I'm talking like a tablespoon. It's not that bad, not bad for you. It's pretty benign from what I understand. It hasn't been bothering me. Lime juice, Redmond's real salt, unflavored, magnesium, the natural calm stuff, a little bit of that, and then a little bit of potassium, because when you're on insulin, you do need to keep an eye on your potassium, I found out. So I'll make my keto aid, and I'll drink that. That's the only other real thing, that and like decaf and regular coffee black. But I've cut out all dairy. I've cut out my nightshades. The only plant really I'm eating right now is the lime juice, and it's this real lime packet. It's just like lime oil and citric acid. But I'm seeing improvements. I tell people that for the most part, I don't feel like I have any of these problems. I feel normal. I will forget that I'm a diabetic. I will forget that I have any issues. And I just live my life. Like, it's amazing. Do you have any questions?
Yes. Yes, this is really amazing, and it flies basically in the face of everything that medical medicine tells us. Medical medicine, conventional medicine, I mean. Uh, so the question is, okay, so you first went carnivore at the beginning of 2017, and you've
Yes,
seen some
more weakness
improvements,
after
but
World Carnivore Month.
then you went back to eating lots of plants. And but okay, my question is, when you went back to eating plants, you said you were eating a lot of um, fiber and a lot of leafy greens and so much. So, but you were not eating, or were you eating also like starchy foods? Like, were you eating
No,
like,
it was still Dr. Bernstein's diabetes solution method, which is a total of 30 total grams of carbs a day. It's a 6-12-12 when it comes to how you like make your diet plan, if you want to call it that. You don't have to reach that many carbohydrates a day. That's just your parameters to help manage your blood sugar, because smaller amounts of carbs mean smaller amounts of insulin, less margin for error. And I was eating around 30 grams of protein each meal. And so, and I wasn't eating junk food. I tried to not eat a lot of processed food. I might have made like a coconut flour bread, but I wasn't like turning it into brownies or anything like that, and eating like keto quest bars or something like that. A lot of avocados,
so were you
a
eating
lot of
stuff
olives.
like rice or corn?
Oh no, I haven't eaten a starch in 7 years. I've
Wow.
been gluten free for about 7 years.
Okay,
Um,
what about sugar substitutes, like for example, agave nectar or coconut flower nectar, or like all those things that they
no,
have?
if I was going to use a sweetener,
Hmm.
I would have used like stevia drops, sweet leaf stevia drops. Now, I do have an allergy to ragweed. And so if you're allergic to ragweed, you need to avoid stevia because you can react to it. Um, let's see, what else was I doing back then?
Well, but this is
I think this
amazing.
whole stevia packet.
So just 30 grams worth of carbohydrates, but in the form of leafy greens, had such a profound negative impact on your condition. Is this fair to say?
Yes, when I analyzed what I was eating pre-carnivore, I realized I was eating a lot of oxalates. I was eating a lot of goitrogens. And then the avocados, I can't pronounce it, and I probably wouldn't be able to spell it, but it's got something in it in there that also can react to people. And I can understand now why I felt so horrible. And then when I did first go carnivore, I didn't know about the oxalate dumping. I'd never read anything by Sally Norton. I wish I would have, but I was having these crystals come out of my eyebrows, and there were crystals in my urine, and I was
Okay,
having these
hold on a
out of my
second.
arm. I was oxalate dumping, and I didn't know. I was like, oh my goodness. I found that out after all of that happened. I just thought I thought it was excess salt, and that was just how my body was excreting it.
Hold on a second,
Now I
because
know.
that sounds crazy. I can imagine that people who listen to this like, what, crystals out of the eyebrows?
Check
Okay,
out Sally Norton. Everybody goes. Sally Norton has a whole thing about oxalates, and it's amazing. And you're going to learn a bunch of stuff. It's amazing.
yeah, no, I interviewed her, but okay, but you mean like you actually like you could see the crystals
It was
actually on your.
great. It was like there was sand, like salt crystals or something. I thought it was salt at the time, but there were crystals coming out of my eyebrows. I would sweat. Oh, I sweat so much that first month. I don't know if that's something. I was calling it the meat sweats at the time. But yeah, my eyebrows would get these little crystals in them. And when I would sweat, I would have crystals on my arms. And I didn't know why I was so gritty. It was weird. I didn't know what was going on. And then finally, after I seeing Sally Norton on a podcast, I was like, I figured out what that was. And I'm glad I didn't really have any other adverse reactions, because she was saying a lot of people get very sick. But I think the reason why I didn't have super adverse reactions was I was still drinking black tea at the time, and I think that helped titrate it down. And then when I found out what was in black tea, I cut that out as well. But I think that's what kept me from being super sick, was the fact that I'd cut out all those vegetables, but I was still drinking probably 4 cups of black tea a day. So I'm thinking that's what helped with mitigate any other symptoms. But it was bizarre. I didn't know why. So I knew some reptiles excrete salt through little things above their eyes, like I think alligators or something, or crocodiles do. And I was like, well, maybe that's just something humans do too when they consume excess salt. So I was drinking a lot of broth, and I was using all the salt on my food and everything. So it was crazy.
So, okay, so then you go back to carnivore and you're doing pretty well, and then around a month ago, something starts feeling not right again. So,
Yes,
so you figured, okay, it must be the thyroid medication or supplementation. You cut that down, and then things seem to be normalizing now again. So, is it possible that basically your thyroid has healed to that degree that you're not needing the thyroid medication anymore, and that's what it was?
I'm going to find out. I'm going to ask for an antibody test and for my T4 and my T3, my TSH. I don't know if they're going to do reverse T3, but I'm going to ask my endocrinologist because she told me to pay attention to my symptoms because we're going by symptoms more than blood work. So if I feel symptomatic, I can ask for a change. I can ask for blood work, and then we'll make a change to see if it's correlating correctly. But I've been on the same dose for ages, but I've cut out the dairy. I'm working on reducing caffeine intake because I thought that's what it was this week or this month. And I'm doing my meditation. I really think that maybe some good stuff's coming. Maybe one of my goals in life of, making sure that I stay healthy here, it's actually coming to fruition. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm really excited. Even if I still have to need medication, the fact that I've just cut it in half is a big victory to me. So I'm really very excited to see what the results are on that.
Mm-hmm. What about insulin? How much insulin do you use per day at the moment?
Per day is usually 3 point. This is in my pump. My total insulin for my basal is less than 4 units. It's between 3.5 and 4 units a day of. It's called Novolog. It's delivered via pump, and it gives me insulin, a little bit of insulin every hour, and that's how your basal works. And then for meals, I usually only use a half unit of R insulin, which is a slower acting meal insulin. It's one of the insulins that you can get at Walmart, and it covers protein beautifully. It has an action time, starts about 45 minutes after your dose, and then it has an action period of 6 hours. So that's for digesting protein, and the insulin is just it covers everything really well. That's another trick we learned with Dr. Bernstein to cover protein. So I'm on maybe a total of 6 units a day, including meals.
Mm-hmm.
I was diagnosed in 2011. I actually believe I have it's called LADA, which is a slower forming type of autoimmune diabetes, but on the paperwork it says type 1 because I am insulin dependent. And I do believe that low carb and carnivore is preserving my existing beta cells that I have left. So I can't really, this is only my N1 experiment. I can't really say if it is or not. But if you ask a lot of endocrinologists and you say if a type 1 diabetic is diagnosed 9 years ago, how much insulin do you think they'd be on? I'm pretty sure they wouldn't say 4 units for an adult or 6 units for an adult. Average, from what I've seen, is around 25 units a day. So I don't know. I'd love to submit myself to a bunch of blood tests. Somebody study me. Just take my blood. We can do this. I want more data. I want more data because this is something that nobody's really, well, I guess Paleomedicina is studying it, huh?
Mm-mm.
Well, I need them to release more of their info so I can read it. And
Mm-hmm.
It's got to be in English. I don't know Hungarian or whatever they speak over there.
Mm-hmm.
So we do have a Facebook group, Type 1 Carnivores. It's a small group. There are other carnivore diets for type 1s, but if you are interested in learning more about utilizing carnivore for type 1 diabetes situation here, I recommend joining one of those groups and also reading Dr. Bernstein's Diabetes Solution Method, because you need to learn how to adjust your basal correctly, and you need to learn how to use our insulin correctly for success. Those are the two bases that you need to know before committing to something like this. But we need more information. I really enjoy these groups that I'm in because that's what we're doing. We ask each other questions, and then we gather that information, because I can't go to my doctor, my endocrinologist, and say, hey, I've been eating 1.5 pounds of ground beef like the past month with just salt on it, and this is what's going on with my blood sugar. Do you have any advice? Or, they're going to look at me like I'm nuts. I was on hold with my endocrinologist last week, and the hold music was them, pretty much advertising about their office. And it's part of I think it's called like Med One. It's a couple of buildings. They have a regular doctor. They have different physicians there. But one of their tips was, it's cold and flu season. Make sure you're drinking lots of orange juice and eating leafy greens to prevent the flu. And I'm like, that's so backwards. I'm calling my endocrinologist, and I was just told to drink lots of orange juice. Like, that's so backwards. And then the fact that, vitamin C, I believe Airborne got in trouble for claiming vitamin C helped prevent colds. So I don't know how vitamin C and orange juice and leafy greens is going to prevent colds. There's a lawsuit against something similar. Anyway, I'm starting to go off track here. But yeah, I can't just go to my endocrinologist, because you sit there and watch videos in the waiting area where they're telling you to eat like half a banana and some oatmeal for breakfast. So,
which of course is like a carb and sugar bomb, right?
Oh yeah.
So none of your doctors knows about you eating only meat?
Well, I tell them that I'm just on a low carb diet, because luckily my endocrinologist has been really happy about keto. She actually supports keto, and if any of her diabetic patients are willing to try it, she supports that. She actually is encouraging me to become a registered dietitian and then a CDE, because we are in sore need of people who understand a ketogenic diet or a low-carb diet, really any diet other than the standard of care that we have right now. So I actually sent one of my transcripts to K-State for their online dietetics program. I'm waiting to see what prerequisites I need. So I'm hoping to do that before I'm 40. I hope I will be actually in an office somewhere, helping people learn how to eat very low carb, carnivore, whatever they need to do, not 45 grams a meal and 15 grams a snack, and make sure you eat lots of processed foods, because it's got labels.
Right. So, so how much do you exactly eat per day?
I usually eat 4 eggs in the morning, and then 6 slices of bacon. That's around like 5 o'clock in the morning. I am hungry in the morning, so I do eat. If I'm not hungry, I'll just have a cup of black coffee. This morning I was hungry, so I had my bacon and eggs, my favorite meal. Every meal is my favorite meal right now, though. And then for lunch, I'll usually have a half pound of beef. I've been buying fattier beef. I bought 85% lean beef, and I thought it was going to work, but it makes me hungry. There's not enough fat in it. So I got some 75%, and that's been working really well. So I'll have half a pound of 75%. And then I'll salt it really well. And then later in the day, usually I eat around between 5 or 6 hours in between meals as well. If I'm hungry later in the day, I'll have another half pound of beef and cover it in salt, and I'll cook it sometimes different ways. I've been using my air fryer. I've got the Cuisinart air fryer. You pop them puppies in there under the broiler, and in 10 minutes, maybe 12 minutes, you've got your burgers. It's done. They've got a little bit of a char on there, like I was outside or something grilling, and it's easy to clean up. My sister told me that you can actually microwave hamburgers. I tried it. Don't microwave hamburger. It's weird. I only did that once. I've got cast iron pans. I love my cast iron. I'll fry it up in the cast iron pan. But all of these things give you different textures. Uh, Other people who like to use seasonings, I know in the carnivore 75 hard group, you're allowed to use seasonings. So if you need more variety, I mean, I'm avoiding seasonings right now because the nightshades. But I mean, you can make ground beef taste like whatever flavor profile you're craving in the beginning, because we all deal with cravings in the beginning. Like, let's be real, people, we have cravings. So in the beginning, I used to do ground beef and then like some Italian seasoning, or ground beef and some taco seasoning. Like, you can get creative if you need to get creative, and if you can eat cheese, I'm avoiding dairy. You can get really creative. I try to not make too many baked foods. The chaffle craze, I think chaffles are great, but I feel like it's a gateway drug or something, because cheese can be such a trigger food for people and cause a lot of problems. And I'm watching people eat like chaffles for like morning, noon, and night right now. And I'm wondering if that's going to backfire on a lot of people because they're not eating a lot of red meat. They're just eating a lot of eggs and cheese.
Wait a minute,
So it'll be.
Chacos, explain.
Oh, you haven't seen truffles? So what people are doing is they're
Truffles,
getting
truffles, yes, it's,
little
she,
truffles. Oh man, people are eating them like crazy, and I think it's great. I do. In the keto world, for kids, like, if your 7-year-old type 1 diabetic will eat a chaffle burger with the chaffle bun or chaffles for breakfast, and it's something you can do because say they've got a nut allergy, so you're not doing almonds, which are really not that awesome for you. Um, that's great. You're getting a lot of calories into the kid. You're getting lots of protein into the kid. Like, kids need that, but us adults, I don't see like eating like a cup and a half of cheese a day as your main protein, because it's not raw. A lot of people they're not using raw dairy, all right? They're going and buying the Kraft shreds and they're making chaffles. I'm getting on a tangent again, but
so truffles
yeah,
are basically, it's like waffles, but there's no flour, instead there's cheese and
yeah,
eggs, right?
it's just cheese and eggs, and then they're making them in these little mini dash waffle makers. So they're so cute, but people are going hog wild on these chaffles, and I worry because I do believe that a carnivore diet is nutritionally sufficient. Like, it's got everything in there, but if all you're eating is cheese and eggs, though, like, you got to get your ruminants in. Paleolithic man was not just eating cheese and eggs. They were out there eating mammoths and giant cow creature things. And I've seen the cave paintings. That's my new thing on the internet. When somebody brings up the game changers, I just post a picture of like a cave painting from like 40,000 years ago in like France, or from Russia or some other part of the world, and I'm like, oh yes, yes, we're definitely eating plants here. I haven't seen the game changers yet, but apparently there's a part where either archaeologists or anthropologists are trying to say that humans are starchivores. I'm just like, no, no, we are not.
Mm-mm.
No.
Yeah. I still want to see the cave painting of a broccoli plant,
Yeah.
or cauliflower or something. Yeah, no.
Yeah, no one's taking the spear and using it to like dig out taro roots. I mean, maybe in the Amazon, but it's just belly filler. They never use it for like it's just for calories. It's never like, oh, it's our main source of nutrition.
Mm. Well, when I see people posting pictures about those truffles, then I'm kind of a little jealous, because I wish I could eat them, but I can't, because when I started eating dairy, then my psoriasis came back, and
Oh yeah,
when I cut out the dairy, then within 2 or 3 weeks the psoriasis went away again. So
that's I
yeah,
have psoriasis. My elbows are completely smooth. I don't have any scars on my
yeah,
elbows. I have scars on my legs, and then I had it on my scalp.
uh-huh.
And yeah, like no issues for a while now. And it used to be such a big deal. I remember an eczema last 2 years ago in the winter. I was wrapping my hands in, oh, what's that stuff called? Aquifer and saran wrap, because my eczema was so bad and my hands were just cracked and bleeding. And I have not had any issues since I started carnivore.
Have you seen any benefits after cutting out dairy?
I feel less bloated.
Hmm.
Um, that's a definite. I don't feel as crazy. Like, I swear, Jerry's a drug to me. I know Amber O'Hearn's talked about how if she eats cheese, she starts looking for it in the fridge when she's not hungry. Like, it interrupts like my appetite regulation. Uh, Before all of this, when I would get sad, all right, everybody's been there, and my thyroid wasn't regulated and all that stuff. I used to, and I was depressed. I'm not depressed anymore, but I would eat, like, this is sad, a brick of cream cheese because it didn't affect my blood sugar. This was a while ago, but it was like super sad. Like, I'm sitting there eating a brick of cream cheese trying to make myself happy like 2 years ago. But it was a trigger food, so we don't keep that in the house anymore. Or we try not to. Now, I did eat some cheese last month, and yeah, I bought raw grass-fed something from Sprouts, and it's still it's still a trigger food. I wanted to eat all sorts of things after that. So yeah, we don't do cheese.
It's definitely addictive. Definitely, 100%. Yeah, absolutely.
It
You
really is.
cheese. You don't eat cheese because you're hungry. You eat it because it's there.
See, I go by eat a hard boiled egg. If you don't want that hard boiled egg right now, then you're not really hungry, because you should be. If you're hungry, you're going to eat that hard boiled egg, because like that's a really good food to eat.
Yeah.
So
So, as a type 1 diabetic, I understand you measure your blood sugar several times a day. Is this correct?
yes, ma'am.
So, do you notice that eating more protein-rich foods instead of more fat-rich? So when you eat, like or a lean meat, does that make your blood sugar spike more than if you eat more fat?
That's interesting. Uh, we have discovered in our community that different kinds of proteins do affect our blood sugars differently. It's not all the same rate. A lot of us we all love beef, but different cuts of beef affect us even differently. Like ground beef, I find is very consistent with my R insulin, but if I were to eat a pot roast, I actually might spike a little more for some reason. Now, this is just my own experience. That's why I tend to stick to ground beef. It's just very, very consistent with the way my body digests it. We figure it might be because it tends to be fattier when we do buy ground beef in the group. We all tend to get like the 70 or 75, 80% ground beef. So that probably slows digestion. And then it's a little bit lower protein. But if you do a leaner beef, it definitely spikes us a little quicker. And it can be a little bit stubborn to come down. A lot of people don't do pork. I did a pork loin, I want to say 2 weeks ago, but that was when I started having issues, I think, with my thyroid as well. So I can't really gauge how my blood sugar was. Now, it was very lean, and I didn't add any extra fat to it. So I'm not sure if I was spiking because of the thyroid levels being off or because of the pork. But if I'll do really fatty pork, like pork shoulder, and like make shredded pork with that, it tends to be a little bit more consistent, like the ground beef. And I think it's the added fat, with the fat coming along with the protein. I try not to add extra fat to my meals. I'm still following that with Dr. Bernstein. If I need extra fat, I buy fattier cuts of meat. Now, that will displace some of the protein, though. And I think overall what we find is if you're going to eat carnivore with blood sugar issues, you either need to go super low fat, pretty much, because that also helps lower insulin resistance. I don't know if you've seen like the protein sparing modified fast folks, but they're very, very low fat, high protein, and that has been shown to, I don't have any of the actual links or anything to tell you. I've just stuff I've read over the internet over the years, but that is shown to help reduce insulin resistance. And then if you do a more keto protocol, which is you moderate your protein and you have a little bit higher fat, that also helps mitigate the insulin resistance. But if you do high fat and high protein, it can personally show, like, it'll give me insulin resistance. It'll be difficult to bring my blood sugar down. So you sort of have to like make a decision. Like, do you want to do more protein and lower fat, which doesn't really work in the long run. You go a little crazy there. That I don't know about the rapid starvation, but I know brain health wise, I can't do that. But you got to do the little bit moderate protein and the higher fat, which I think that actually gives us better results because it gives you more fuel. I tend to say that I've got enough fuel on my body, but I've tried the lower fat, higher protein, and it did not work for me.
That's
So
interesting. So it's either high protein and very low fat, or the other extreme, higher fat and low protein.
And when I say
Yeah.
like higher fat, I'm not talking about like gobs of butter and like eating. I mean, you can eat more tallow. You can eat more like beef trimmings. Ask your butcher, see if you can get some beef trimmings. But what was it? Protein needs. I normally do 0.8 grams per pound of like lean body mass, and then with the fat, it comes with my meat. So the egg yolks, the bacon fat, and the beef fat. I do have tallow though, but I've been using it mainly as moisturizer than as a food product. Um, you have to experiment. Everything's individual. I don't like to
Mm-mm.
speak in absolutes. I don't like to be dogmatic about things. This is all just my own personal responses with testing my blood sugar and eating different foods, but that's just my own personal experience.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I mean, there are some studies, but most of these studies end up being on like on a 45-year-old man with issues. Always look at where they got their in studies. Make sure you look to see where they got their stuff. Like who are they actually studying? Yeah, I'm finding out a lot of it's never on women, and it's never my age group. It's always like 45-year-old men. I'm like, this is even like mean anything to me as a 33-year-old woman? But yeah, so yeah,
Do
I
you
understand.
do you measure your ketones?
I do not. I used to measure my ketones when I was high carb because my endocrinologist told me that I needed to when I was first diagnosed because the diabetic ketoacidosis was going to like get me. But after I went low carb and now carnivore, I mainly focus on making sure I get enough electrolytes because that helps keep you energized, and that also, if you have ketones and you're type 1 diabetic, you need to make sure that you're hydrated, you have adequate insulin, and you're not starving yourself. You can become too ketotic if you're doing long-term fasting because that's starvation, and your body, as type 1 diabetic, we don't produce enough insulin. And so you might be able to downregulate your insulin and go lower your basals and all that, and you think you're doing good. But if you're not keeping those ketones in check, like if I was doing long-term fasting, I would be buying like something because you do need to watch with that. There's some information on euglycemic DKA, but that's normal blood sugar with diabetic ketoacidosis. I'm not going to go into that because it's very rare, but it can happen. It happens in terms of starvation and illness. You can have normal blood sugar but have excessive ketones. So in that situation, yeah, I would probably test ketones. I personally don't. Normal blood sugar, hydrated, and adequate protein should keep ketones in check. So as long as you're not starving yourself and you're testing your blood sugar and you're taking your insulin and you're within your range, my range, I try to stay around 100, then yeah, I don't worry about ketones.
Mm-hmm.
I really don't. I know I'm in ketosis because I'll get keto breath or, that keto breath. That'll tell you. But I'm not really concerned. I'm looking for different results.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What do you think about fasting? Are you planning on fasting?
I let fasting happen naturally. If I'm hungry, I'll eat. If I'm not hungry, I might have some broth and call it an evening. I've never had a full day where I've not been hungry. I've always eaten at least 2 meals. So I think fasting could be a good way. Not long term, I'm talking maybe 24 hours if you are having some insulin resistance. This is also a good time to basal test if you are going to do a 24-hour fast and you're on insulin. For more information on basal testing, the internet. Seriously, just type in basal testing, type 1 diabetes, and whether or not you're an insulin pump or MDI, you can get all the information you need right there. But I don't personally fast on purpose. I just, if I would go to work, eat around 8 o'clock in the morning, work like 11 to 6, and I wouldn't eat until I got home around 7. No problem.
Wow.
But if I'm hungry on break, I'd bring like a hamburger patty or a can of sardines or something.
Mm-hmm. So you say that you have a group, Type 1 carnivores. So
I think that's what it's called. It's a small group. We have maybe 200 members. There's also other groups with type 1 diabetic carnivores. I've never been in any of the other groups, but it's a good resource to have. I actually am thinking about trying to join some of the other groups just to see what they're doing. Other groups, there's also ketogenic type 1 diabetics. They might be able to help people. Type 1 grit, of course, that's near and dear to my heart. Type 1 grit's like the big main group that I'm part of for very low carb type 1 diabetics. Dr. Bernstein's Diabetes Solution book, I haven't been in, or group, I haven't been in for a while. It's a group of like fans of the method, but they might be able to help people as well. But yes, my group, it's run by me and a lovely lady named Alex Quinn. She is also a type 1 diabetic, and she uses multiple daily injections to manage her blood sugar and a mainly carnivorous diet. She's using carnivore to help mitigate some of the digestive issues she has with some of her complications. We've been seeing some really great things in the group when it comes to energy. People having I feel like they have a lot more hope. Mindset, I've seen a lot of mindset changes where a lot of us go from this really sucks, I hate diabetes, to this is manageable, and maybe this will help prevent complications or might reverse some of the complications, because normal blood sugar is key. That's the main thing. Whatever diet you're going to follow, if you have type 1 diabetes, you need normal blood sugar, and that is a blood sugar between 70 and like 100.
Mm-hmm.
Not this stay under 180 stuff they try to tell you when you go to your doctor's office. No, you need non-diabetic numbers in order to prevent complications.
But have you ever seen anyone who is a type 1 diabetic and who tried the carnivore diet who experienced some problems?
Yes. A lot of us have issues with our digestion.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of us still have Hashimoto's, and then just normal people who have gone from a very plant-based diet to a carnivore diet, you don't have the stomach acid, stomach acid. You need more. All right, so you can get ox bile and you can get hydrochloric acid pills, supplement, and that seems to help. Also, gastroparesis is an unfortunate common issue in type 1 diabetics. After a few years of having high blood sugar, you're going to develop some neuropathies, and one of them is the nerves in your gut, and that unfortunately means you have like very slow motility and your stomach emptying is all off. So if you eat something, it might sit in your stomach for hours and then move, and so it's very hard to match your insulin too. And so these folks have to be constantly vigilant about going high or going low and trying to figure out how to mitigate that, because you don't know when your stomach's going to work. You don't know when your intestines are going to move, because all of those nerves have been screwed up by high blood sugar from previous years. We have seen people who are reversing this. They're healing. They're using a lot more bone broths, and they're using very slow cooked meats. So these meats have been cooked so they're super, super soft, super easy to digest. And they're drinking lots of bone broth, and that seems to be helping. Exercise can help get the gut to work too if you go for a walk after you eat. Using our insulin, some of them actually use NPH. This is actually an intermediate acting insulin that is used as basal insulin. You're supposed to take it 2-3 times a day. It's another insulin you can get from Walmart, so it's a lot cheaper. And they're actually using it to dose for some of their meals, especially at night. they'll eat their dinner and they'll take some NPH, and then once their digestive system starts working later in the night, when it starts to actually raise their blood sugar again, the NPH will actually help cover that protein raise. It's amazing. So they don't tell you any of this when you go to your endocrinologist's office. I believe actually gastroparesis, from what I've leached off the internet in different groups who have this issue, I believe these people are being told to do a liquid diet in mainstream groups where they're taking in like Ensure, Slim Fast. They're told to drink these processed food drinks instead of eating real food because their body can't handle real food, and they're just trying to keep weight on these people. But definitely different strategies for treatment. That's another thing that would be really nice if we could figure out how to help people with gastroparesis eat a more protein adequate diet. That's a big issue. That's a whole other talk though.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I have ADHD too. I don't know if anybody can notice that. I'm unmedicated. I've been using the carnivore diet to actually help mitigate those symptoms. So I can think clearer, but I still go off on tangents, and I really like to talk. So, yeah.
Have you ever been on medication for ADHD or?
I actually was on Ritalin from my third grade year to about 10th grade. I was on Ritalin.
Mm-hmm.
Then in 11th grade, I switched to Adderall. Adderall, it worked. I was very focused. It also caused insomnia and anorexia. I did not have an appetite. So I lost a lot of weight, and I wouldn't sleep. I was also had allergies, and for my allergies, I was on Sudafed because I had a lot of inflammation in my sinuses. So I was on Adderall and Sudafed, and I was drinking a lot of coffee in high school. And I think that's why I was a very productive individual, like from 11th to 12th grade. I had so many activities. I had a bowling team, youth and government. What else? So I was working out at the YMCA almost every day. I had a bowling team Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, bowling league Friday and Saturday. Well, Friday was midnight bowling, and Saturday was a bowling league. I had a part-time job at a Subway. I still got all my homework done, and I had time for a social life. I'm pretty sure it was the Adderall and the Sudafed and the coffee. Never again. Like, that was not a good idea at all. I quit taking that medication, though, after I graduated high school. And, I mean, I was doing all right because I did not like those side effects. But I definitely needed some sort of intervention for my ADHD because I was having trouble with employment. So I had ADHD. It's really hard when you're not managing that. And I do believe it's definitely a dietary issue for a lot of people. So I was on a lot of food coloring back then too. Food coloring, caffeine, and just processed food. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Stephanie, I'm showing here your Instagram account, the _endless_sunshine, so people can follow you on Instagram
Do you
if
see
they
my
want.
dinosaur?
Yes, I saw it.
Oh, my dinosaur is dressed up like a dinosaur for Halloween.
And I also saw that bacon tattoo. So have you got that bacon tattoo, or are you only
I
thinking
haven't
about it?
got the bacon tattoo yet. I'm still thinking about it, though.
You should get it, totally.
I think I might. My husband's deployed right now. I don't think he'll watch this podcast. So he'll probably put it on, but stick it on mute as support because he's got stuff to do down where he's at. He doesn't have time to be looking at random videos right now, unfortunately. But I'm thinking about it. Now, I don't know about the placement. I was going to stick it on this arm because over here I have a big medical tattoo because I kept losing my bracelet, and I'm a little bit impulsive sometimes. And so instead of just getting a new bracelet, I decided to just get a giant tattoo. But yeah, so I might do the bacon tattoo on this arm. Maybe that'll be my reward after the Carnivore 75 Hard Challenge. I'll get through it, and then I'll reward myself with a tattoo for my love of bacon because it's never going away. It will be forever, like my lowest bake.
And people can also subscribe to your YouTube channel, Toes
Yes,
Over Ho-Hos.
Hose over ho-hos.
Hmm.
My husband created that name.
So, so
I was thinking,
that number 83, what does it
oh,
signify?
83. 83 is the perfect blood sugar. Dr. Bernstein actually tested thousands upon thousands of non-diabetics in his office. And when you look at the average blood sugar of a non-diabetic through his testing, it's 83. So that is our goal as, I mean, it's not our goal. That's the average we would love as type 1 diabetics, is have a 83 blood sugar all the time. Now, we don't always hit it, but when you're in 83, a lot of us will take a picture of our meters and we'll be like 83. So it's let me be 83. That it's the normal blood sugar. You want that average.
Hmm. Awesome. Well, Stephanie, I don't have any more questions, and I think you need to go, right?
Oh
So,
yeah,
yeah. So, thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much for, being so generous and doing the good thing. I hope that more people will watch this. I hope that more diabetics will try the carnivore lifestyle. I think you are number 3 or 4 type 1 diabetic that I've heard about who's on the carnivore diet, and they
so
see
great.
really tremendous success. It really keeps them stable, reduces their insulin use. So it really seems to be a great thing. So yeah, I will share this podcast, this video on all those Facebook groups, World Carnivore Tribe and all those communities. So I hope a lot of people will watch this.
Wonderful.
Yeah,
Yeah, we need to get the word out. This is a
yeah,
viable way of living to
yeah,
manage all forms of diabetes.
yeah. And I think it's in your case, it's not only diabetes but also Hashimoto's, right?
Yes, and
Yeah,
I'll try to get you the results if I get them done. I'll try to do a little bit of an update for you.
yeah, great. Yeah, definitely. And post them on Instagram.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, again, thank you very much. And yeah, keep it up.
Thank you so much for interviewing me. It was very nice to meet you.
Same here. Thank you.